Welcome to another Conversation and Coffee with Pastor Paul. And today, this week, we are actually looking and understanding why our memory passage for this week is Genesis 50, 19 through 21. You know, each week we are setting aside a passage, maybe it's a single verse or a couple or three verses to memorize throughout this year. They are coming from our reading that we're reading together as we are trying to engage God's Word together. This week, the passage comes from Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 through 21. And here Joseph is engaging his brothers. And these are the words that we read from the Word of the Lord. Notice it says in Genesis 50, verse 19 through 21. Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You planned evil against me. God planned it for good to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. Therefore, don't be afraid, and I will take care of you and your children. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. You know, I think this passage, the reason we need to memorize it is really three reasons. I think the first reason is this, is we must forgive others because we are not in the place of God. You know, Joseph said that directly. He says, am I God? Am I in the place of God? Do I have the right to withhold or carry out judgment or retribution because of what you've done to me? But rather, when we memorize this verse, it should challenge us to be able to respond in a proper way, guided by the Lord, of remembering that He alone is the one in control, and that we must be obedient to forgive the way He calls us to forgive. I think a second reason why we must memorize this passage is that we must remember that what humanity means for evil, means to hurt one another with, that God can take that and He can turn it into His glory. Now, this doesn't mean there won't be hardship along the way. I mean, if we look at Joseph, think about the difficulty he experienced throughout his life. And yet at the end of it, he can say, what you meant for evil, how you tried to harm me, God took, He spun it. He formed a beautiful tapestry of deliverance, of how I've delivered you as a people and protected you from this famine. And thus we can give God glory. So I think the other reason we memorize this and hold this in our heart is that we can remember that even though man may have intentions that are evil, God can take whatever humanity does and spin it for His will and His ways and for His glory. I think the third reason why this passage is so important for us to remember is it really does come back to the heart of what it looks like to have a heart completely surrendered to God by extending forgiveness to others. It really demonstrates that here that Joseph not only forgave his brothers because his brothers really thought he would carry out retribution, but rather it says not only is he caring for them and forgiving them, but he takes care of their entire families. So he shows a genuine heart of compassion, a genuine heart of love. So as we memorize this verse this week and really challenge ourselves to hide His word within our hearts, may we recognize that we are to be obedient to the Lord because He is God and we are not. May we remember and may we recognize that even when we face difficulty, the Lord is at work for His purpose, His glory, and His will, and He can bring whatever circumstances are and flip those to His glory. And may we remember to have a heart that's completely committed to Him, that we demonstrate forgiveness to others and genuine compassion and care for them. Let's keep on reading and memorizing together this week and over the course of the year. And I look forward to us looking at next week's verse together as we have Conversations and Coffee with Pastor Paul.